Hello there, everyone. It's a real treat and an honor to be here with all of you today. So we are actually given the challenge, but also the wonderful opportunity to create a prayer, an opening prayer for the SoCal VegFest. And that's how we're going to begin our vegan spirituality panel today, with an intention for the entire weekend. So let's take a moment to take a few deep breaths to quiet our minds and fully realize the miracle of what is happening here at the SoCal VegFest. Together, let us feel the uplifting joy as we look around us and see how far we have come. Let us give thanks for all the activists who have worked so hard for centuries to bring us to this special day of celebration. And let us give thanks for each other as we carry on together in this noble cause to liberate all animals from human exploitation. We call upon divine intelligence and love to fill us with courage, faith, and joy as we go forward. May we all feel the power of this universal love, moving always through us, connecting us to each other and to all beings. May we help each other through discouragement and burnout, for the animals need us all, and saving them helps save all of nature and people as well. May we always remember that we have been given the treasured gifts of empathy and compassion. May we always remember that our sensitive hearts, though they feel the pain of others, are our greatest strength and the reason we are here together. Today, we show the world how joyful vegan life can be. May our vision of a world of peace and freedom for all beings inspire people everywhere. And may all animals feel the love and faith radiating from this beautiful SoCal VegFest. So it's our great pleasure to bring to you this special panel on vegan spirituality. So veganism and vegan spirituality go hand in hand. And our goal with this panel is to explore veganism as a spiritual practice. And then
thank you, Lisa. That was Lisa Levinson. And it is my pleasure to get to introduce everyone. And first of all, let me introduce Lisa. She is an incredible human being for the rights of this planet and the rights of animals. She is exemplary, and she has been an activist most of her life. It is in her blood, and she is one of my role models, and we all love her very much. Give her some love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lisa is the Director of Defense of Animals Sustainable Activism Campaign, which offers emotional and spiritual support for animals and activists. Take advantage of the many services that her organization provides for activists. Burnout is something that happens to all of us at certain times, especially activism. There is a support system that she runs and operates to support us. Take advantage of it and go to her booth and find out more, please. She also runs the vegan spirituality groups and retreats to explore veganism as a spiritual practice. And she co-organizes the Interfaith Vegan Coalition to help places of worship go vegan. Fantastic work. I would like to call our first speaker, Deanne. Yes. Thank you.
Frank. Thank you, Frank. Hi, everyone. I am a Faith Outreach Manager for the Humane Society of the United States, and I'm so honored to be here today to share with you a little bit about Christianity and veganism. So we don't have a whole lot of time, so I will make it snappy, but just to give you kind of a brief overview, we can go back and see that there is a long history of animal protection in the faith community. And so you can go back starting with Genesis. And a lot of us are familiar with Genesis 1:29, which says that, that God gives us every seed-bearing plant for food and the trees that bear fruit. So we see right away this beautiful paradise, this Eden, that humans and animals live together in harmony. And so we see too that God creates animals, and so they're His. God creates them, He loves them, He formed covenants with them, He blesses them. And so I love Psalm 24:1 because it tells us that the earth is the Lord's and all it contains. So what's really important about that is that it tells us animals are God's, they're not ours to do whatever we want with, and He is entrusting their care in our hands. So that looks like a stewardship dominion, a humane dominion, the kind that God bestows upon us, the kind that a parent bestows upon their child. So that's really important to remember, and how much God loves His animals and cares about them. And so God creates Adam, and I love that He says He creates, He wants to have companions for Adam, and so He brings the animals to Adam and says, hey, name the animals. Whatever you name them is what they'll be called. And so that signifies a relationship. There's a relationship there. And later He does decide, okay, Eve is probably a better companion for Adam, but He wants the animals to be His companions too. And I think that's just a beautiful thing. So we see clearly, God's love for animals. And then, of course, we see Jesus. And as Christians, Jesus is the person that we want to reflect and that we follow. And Jesus is the perfect example. He embodies compassion and love and mercy and kindness. Jesus was all about being inclusive, and He didn't like division, so He wanted to build community. So it's really, He's such a great example for us. He came to the world to serve and not be served. He laid down His life for others, and He was seen as the good shepherd. And that's exactly what we strive to be as well. And of course, we're humans, we're not perfect, but this is what we strive towards. And then also a brief background too, the modern animal welfare movement has Christian roots as well. So if you go back to the 1800s in London, William Wilberforce steps on the scene. How many of you are familiar with William Wilberforce? He's amazing. So he was this British parliamentarian, this fiery abolitionist, and he was an evangelical Christian. And he saw all of the rampant abuse happening in that bleak time in history. There was rampant slave trade, prostitution, child labor, and there were blood sports of animals, there was bear baiting. So he saw all of this and said, I'm going to address all of it, and I don't have to just pick and choose. We don't have to pick and choose. We can help humans and animals, and William was a perfect example of this. And in 1824, William and Reverend Arthur Broom founded the first and longest running anti-cruelty society for animals, the RSPCA, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. So I just wanted to give you a little background of kind of like where that takes us today. So what that looks like is, we know what we're called to. We're called to lay down our lives and to serve, and to, as a church, the church is called to really care for the needs of the community and address social justice causes. So this is really important for Christians to step up, and people of faith to practice their faith. And so one really easy, wonderful way to do that every single day, to practice your faith, is by the food choices that we make. 3 times a day or more, we can practice our faith by the food that we eat. And then we can just be that example. Just like Jesus was for us, we are that example in our communities. And so that could look like, being that person to get, vegan and vegetarian options at your church functions. You could show screenings of documentaries at your faith communities, like our documentary, Eating Mercifully. So those are just some examples. So that's kind of, am I running out of time here, Frank? Okay, so I'll wrap it up. I just want to wrap up with one of my favorite scriptures, because God, He wants to restore Eden. We look forward to a time of that peaceable kingdom, and that's what we strive towards. And in Isaiah 11, God describes this place where, you know, there's a wolf that lies down with a lamb, and the leopard and the goat, and the little child leads them. And God says, no one will hurt or destroy all on my holy mountain. And I wanted to just leave you with Romans 8:21. In my Bible, the New Living Translation, it says, all creation will be liberated from its bondage. And I love that they use our terminology, liberated. And it says that we look forward to the new heaven and earth that God promised, and his new order that will free the world from sin, sickness, and evil. And until then, Christians go with Christ into the world to heal bodies, souls, and fight the evil effects of sin in the world. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Deanne Thomsen. That was Deanne Thomsen, and she engages people of faith about animal protection issues through religious values of kindness and mercy for all of God's creation. She did a beautiful job here. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to call Alan Dale, representing Buddhism. He's an American Tibetan Buddhist and was a discipline of Shoyam Trungpa Rinpoche, and also studied as a Lama and is a Lama as well in the Naku Nipame and other followers of the Dalai Lama. I wish I could pronounce all those names, Alan. But I can tell you that I have had the opportunity to work with this human being that is exemplary. He is a beautiful human being that loves life, loves the animals, and has been vegetarian and vegan most of his life. He walks his talk. Very smart guy, Alan Dale.
Thank you, Frank. So I'm going to give a brief overview of vegetarianism and veganism within the history of Buddhism and the various different systems of Buddhism. So there are three types of Buddhism that, or where you can divide Buddhism into for various different traditions. You have the Theravada tradition, you have the Mahayana system, and you have the Vajrayana system. Now, in the Theravada system, they have a text that they follow called the Pali Canon. And the very first precept of Buddhism in that system is do not do any harm. Do not kill, and have respect for all creatures and all sentient beings. And they include mammals, they include fish, they include birds, they also include insects. So that is within the Pali Canon. The other tradition, Mahayana, that tradition goes by sutras. And there's a lot of different sutras that are out there that will talk about how you should not eat meat and how you should have loving and kindness and compassion towards animals. And probably the most well-respected tradition or text within that tradition is the Lankavatara Sutra. Now, the Lankavatara Sutra is highly respected within the Zen Buddhist, the Chinese Chan Buddhist, within the Tibetan system, and also the Mahayana system. And within there, the Lankavatara Sutra, there is a dialogue between Buddha and one of his bodhisattvas named Mahamati. And in the 6th chapter of that, well, let me say, in some texts it's the 6th chapter, in other texts it's the 8th chapter. But within there, there's a chapter called No Meat Eating. And in there, Mahamati is asking specifically of Buddha, hey, I hear a lot of different things. There's a lot of Buddhists that eat meat. Give me the bottom line about meat eating within the Buddhist system. And Buddha says, let me set this straight. And within many, many, many pages, Buddha discussed all the different downfalls and all the negative aspects of meat eating. And specifically, Buddha will say within this text that you should, if you're going to follow and respect my teaching, you should not eat any meat at any time. And if there's any text or any words or anyone that says I'm not a vegetarian or that I eat meat or any text that praises meat, these are not my teachings. And so this specific book talks about all those different aspects of the negativity of eating meat. So, and that's also followed over into the Tibetan tradition. Now, Buddhism is divided up also into the exoteric religious aspect, but also the esoteric aspect. The esoteric aspect is where all the yogis and the great meditators do their practice, and they don't necessarily follow the Pali Canon or the sutras. They're the ones that practice by experiencing, and they're going from not knowing to the state of knowing. And their concept of meat is that meat is probably the worst addiction that you could ever have. And within that addiction, you have all these different negative aspects. In modern times, it would be easier to give up smoking or drinking or opioids or whatever, but meat is really one of the most addictive aspects. And within that addictive aspect, I'm being signaled here, I need to wrap up. So within the esoteric system, the reason why this is so addictive is that meat is a poison, and that poison will interfere with your development in meditation and also within your advanced yoga practices. So ideally, you want to find a way to transition away from meat. And one of the best ways to do that is whenever you go to eat a meal, ask yourself how much suffering has gone into this meal that I'm about to partake. And even if you're eating a really nice organic vegan meal, there may be suffering still tied to that meal. Well, how can that be? Well, maybe these organic veggies came over from China, and when those things came over, there was this outpouring of all this diesel fuel from the ships to bring the stuff over. So to reduce suffering, you should try to eat locally. And anything that you want to try to develop your own loving kindness within your own heart is think about the suffering that's gone into the meal and how you can lessen your suffering footprint. And so the bottom line of Buddha in the Lankavatara Sutra is don't eat meat. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. Jews, Lisa Levinson. She is going to talk about Judaism.
Hello, everyone. So, what I'm here to share with you is that Jewish values are also vegan values, that the importance of social justice action in the Jewish faith is really at the backbone of the whole tradition. So I grew up Jewish, and my grandfather was a rabbi, and so I learned about the importance of social justice when I attended synagogue. So there are 5 core values that I'm going to go over today that relate to Judaism and social justice. And the first one is Kavod HaBriot, which is the divinity of all creatures and having respect for all creation. So this means that we have a prohibition to be cruel to any living creature. And Maimonides, who was a great medieval authority of the Jewish practices, said there is no difference between the pain of man/humans and the pain of other living beings. So the second of the 5 core values is chesed, which means loving kindness. And this is a good deed with no expectation of a reward. It's the true essence of compassion and empathy. Love thy neighbor as yourself. The third value is lo ta'amud, You shall not stand idly by while the blood of your neighbor is being shed. So this is the obligation to stop a crime. If you see an injustice or an atrocity, that it's our responsibility to protect the rights of others. And in the animal rights movement, that means all animals. So we think of this as the many leaders who were very active in the human rights programs, especially in the 60s, and also many animal rights groups today. So there's this idea of civic engagement, and that it's a social responsibility for society, and that's part of our legacy. The fourth of the core values is Dar Chai Shalom, which means the ways of peace. So these compassionate actions that we're doing have no boundaries. They're not limited. They extend to all communities and all living beings. The fifth of the core values is Ahavat Ger, which means loving the stranger. And this was often interpreted as loving the non-Jewish person. But as animal rights activists, we do extend this to all living beings. So it means not to oppress the stranger, not to oppress the other or the animals in our midst. To treat the strangers, the animals, fairly and provide sustenance and support, and to protect those who are vulnerable. So these outsiders who are often victims of oppression, and we think of the animals, this is part of our legacy. Part of what we're here to do is to protect them. And I'll close this part of the talk with all of God's creation can enjoy the blessings of liberty, economic opportunity, and the freedom to act according to their conscience. So the idea that may all beings be free. So I'll share with you that the sources of this were by Rabbi Sivi Schwartz, who writes about Judaism and social justice. So I also would like to mention that vegan spirituality, which is about exploring veganism as a spiritual path and following the principles of dynamic harmlessness and also the 5 core values that I mentioned that are really inherent in many of the traditions that we've heard of today. So you can learn more about vegan spirituality. We have local groups that meet in person and also groups that meet across the country. We even have groups that meet online. So if you're curious to hear more about vegan spirituality or would like to join a community to really explore what does that mean to be vegan on a deeper level, you can check us out at veganspirituality.com and visit our booth. And we are part of In Defense of Animals' Sustainable Activism campaign. What we do is provide emotional and spiritual tools for animal activists. We'd love to share some of them with you at the booth. And the last thing I'd like to share is that we have also established an Interfaith Vegan Coalition. And what we've done is we have members from all different faiths from around the world, and we put together some religion-specific advocacy kits to help activists to encourage their places of worship to go vegan. So please, you can hear more about that from our table. Again, the website for that is Interfaith Vegan Coalition. You're welcome to join us. We have online meetings, and these kits are available for free. Everyone can use them to connect with their place of worship regarding encouraging steps to go vegan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I have only a few minutes left, so I'm going to make this very quick. I'm going to speak about vegan spirituality. What is vegan spirituality? Well, it's not religious, it's not political, it's not liberal, it's not Democrat, it's not Republican. It is about the essence of our life. It's the moral compass of compassion. It's which all major religions are based on, compassion. And that's what vegan spirituality is. It's the basis of living compassion. Ahimsa, which we know means living with the least amount of harm possible, is the type of life that we lead to create a world of nonviolence. It's an honoring of every breath and the sanctity of life for everyone. Everyone wants to love. Everyone wants to be loved. And we can be that by being vegan. Veganism is compassion in action. It is a worldwide movement that is awakening social justice. It is a social justice movement and a movement of enlightenment. It is our next step in evolutionary journey to a more loving and compassionate life. It's the antidote for violence in this out of balance world. There is an animal holocaust going on in this world, and you can be part of rendering it insufficient. Think about this animal holocaust, because it's in our face. It's everywhere. It's pandemic, but we don't see it because we see it as normal, natural, and necessary. That has been indoctrinated. But what it actually is, it's abject torture, pain, and suffering for ourselves and this planet. We cannot keep silent any longer. You, as vegans, need to speak out and live your consciousness and share the message of nonviolence. Dr. Melanie Joy's research that was done at Harvard University calls this carnism. Carnism is the belief or ideology that conditions us to eat animals like lambs instead of other animals like dogs or cats. Part of vegan spirituality, we have meetings every month of incredible groups with delicious food, so you are very welcome to come to the Vegan Spirituality Meetup and enjoy delicious food and a great, compassionate group of people. I hope to see you there. Come to our table at G1 and G2. Thank you so much.